Mark Twain referred to the late 19th century as the Gilded Age. By this, he meant that the period was glittering on the surface but corrupt underneath. He believed Americans are driven by money, lust, and live by the motto, get rich dishonestly if we can, honestly if we must. Why was the national government so ineffective? During this time, the government was laissez-faire, which means they were not doing very much domestically. They were only required to deliver the mail, maintain a national military, conduct a foreign policy, and collect taxes and tariffs. The government didn't really want to interfere with anything else. They didn't want to take part in any social and economic problems. This gave big businesses the opportunity to take over. With new industries such as steel, oil, and the railroad becoming a big success, a new method of business organization was needed. Corporations began to form trusts and monopolies that drove the competition out of business. Trusts are groups of companies that join together to control one area of business. A monopoly is a company that owns most or all of the resources in one area and has control of that industry. You can see why this is bad. If a company owns most or all of the resources, then you would have no choice but to buy them at a price chosen by the corporation, no matter how expensive it was. Cleveland was president at this time. He was the first Democrat since 1856. In his laissez-faire presidency, he opposed bills to assist the poor as well as the rich, and vetoed over 200 special pensions for Civil War veterans. The government refused to take part in such activities, therefore were unable to satisfy the needs of the people. Which political parties dominate the political arena? Democrats, Republicans, and progressives. Democrats mostly consisted of white Southerners. They were recent immigrants who were pro-labor and were mostly farmers. Republicans were northern whites who were pro-business. They supported the anti-immigrant laws. The Republican Party was mostly ruled by the middle class. Progressives were the native-born, middle or upper class, and college-educated. They were unhappy with their working conditions and wanted to fix urbanization and industrialization. They wanted to have greater control of the government. They also wanted the new election reforms and proposed political measures to make government more responsive to the desires of the voters. They basically believed in social justice. If we wish to do good work in our country, we must be unselfish. Theodore Roosevelt. In 1910, some 20% of all American industrial laborers worked an average of 54 hours a week. As a result, American workers had higher accident rates than workers in other industrialized countries. In one Pittsburgh steel mill, 25% of its workforce was injured or killed on the job each year between 1907 and 1910. Roosevelt's slogan promised to see to it that every man had a square deal, no less and no more. This limited the power of trust, promoted public health, safety, and working conditions. Roosevelt looked out for citizens, not companies. He began regulating big businesses. Trust busting led to 44 lawsuits against monopolies. He also favored regulating the railroads with the Elkins and Halpern Acts. He protected consumers with the Meat Inspection Act and the Pure Food and Drug Act. What resulted from the stalemate? Populist movement, political machines, rise of business, and progressive reform. Political machines were political parties who were successful in getting their members elected into local political offices. During the late 1800s, political machines attempted to provide the public service required by growing U.S. cities. Political machines controlled much of the power in the nation's cities. These machines come about because the urban areas of the U.S. were growing so quickly, the various levels of government were unable to keep up with the needs of the people. Political machines existed for two main reasons: money and power. Even so, they also did some good, such as assisting immigrants by finding them housing and employment, bringing groceries to families in need, bailing family members out of jail, etc. Political bosses managed the political machines. They dictated positions on city ordinances and made deals with business leaders. They also controlled the district leaders, city officials, and council members, who kept the machines running smoothly. For political machines to maintain their power, they had to win election. If the votes would not suffice, they would turn into fraud and graft, the acquisition of money or political power through illegal and dishonest methods. Politicians received bribes, payoffs, and kickbacks.
And modernization of the U.S. The agricultural revolution was the first domino in a chain reaction that led to the country that it is today. The revolution created a demand for machines to help make farming easier. Certain people began inventing these machines. Such machines included things such as the cotton gin and the water frame. These machines led to and were incorporated in factories where they could mass produce products. People would come to work in the factories. This is what created the modern workday. This also created a continuous series of inventions that would help urbanize the city. The cities also became urbanized with the help of the factories. The factories opened up an array of opportunities for employment. People began to flock to the cities in search of jobs and money. However, it was more than just the people within the country. People from all over the world began to migrate to the U.S. in search of a new home, better lives, freedom, and job opportunities. About 31 million immigrants came to the U.S. between 1810 and 1920. These immigrants helped populate the country and started working in the factories. Their willingness to work led to a lowering of the wages, and this led to the creation of labor unions who fought to make working conditions better and led to the modern working conditions that we have today, which are much better than they were back then. All of these factors helped create the modern U.S. that we live in today.
In what way did growth and modernization impact society? Growth and modernization impacted society in many ways. Modernization created job opportunities for immigrants who were looking for a new and better life. However, these jobs required people to work long hours in dangerous environments. Political machines began to control the power in these cities. They offered the immigrants assistance in return for their vote. If the political machines were unsuccessful in getting a sufficient amount of votes, they would turn to fraud. During this time, the government was very laissez-faire. They knew what was going on in the cities but refused to lend a helping hand. This corrupted the government and society.
Did this change help establish the United States as a world power? If so, why? This change helped establish the United States as a world power by industrializing the country. Because of the many things that were produced, it followed up by leading and helping future inventions and discoveries we have today in the United States. Because of the immigrants, it helped establish new laws that helped the U.S. Due to all that was developed in the 18th and 19th century, it helped the development of the United States that we live in today.